Welcome to the Traveling Professors. I'm Professor Bob.
And I'm Professor Sherry.
And together we are
the Traveling Professors.
Welcome to the Karnak Sound and Light Show. After a whole day of wandering through the temple, we came back for some more in the evening, and the Sound and Light Show is quite spectacular. It was different from what we had anticipated. We watched YouTubes and all sorts of other things, and they gave the impression that you would come out, get your ticket, at a certain time you would be allowed to walk into the temple, it would be all lit up, and then you would go to the place where everybody would be seated, and then they would do the show. That is not the way it operated. They bring you into the temple in stages, give you a discussion, and then move you to the next section. But ultimately, you do indeed end up at the stadium where you can watch a different section. But the whole show is a walkthrough. So let's get started. Before we start our way into the temple, let me use this aerial picture that I used in the walkthroughs of the main temple to show you how they're going to break the Sound and Light Show up. So first of all, we're standing out here in front of the Avenue of Sphinxes, waiting for the lights, shall we say, to come on to move us through the front pylon. Once that takes place, we walk through and we go into the great courtyard. So we'll stand in the great courtyard and they'll do a whole series of talks and turn the lights on the different aspects of the courtyard. Then we move towards and into the hypostyle hall where, again, there's more projections, there's more light. Now, after you walk through a section and you go to another one, they turn the lights off behind you, and it gets pretty dark. Then after we've been through the hypostyle hall, and they do a series on the obelisk of Hatshepsut, and again, there are more side pictures. Then we move to the area where the seating is, across the other side of the sacred lake. And there we will sit for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, while they then light up the back side of the temple in different stages, talking about the different times and the different pharaohs and what they added. When it's finished, there's just enough light to walk back around, but you don't go through the main temple. You go through the seventh pylon, walk around the corner to the south, and come back up the south side of the building. Because as we're leaving, other people are coming in for the next show. So they do it in kind of a rotating basis. So that's how it will go from one section to the next. Well, Sherry and I were some of the first people to get to the show, and we're roped off. We can't get in there. We just have to sit there and wait for the rest of the people to show up. So we're hanging around the obelisk here. And then as we get closer to the starting time, then everybody starts to line up in front of the Avenue of the Sphinxes. Now, one of the things, as you look through these pictures, you want to keep an eye on that central section, because Venus is in the night sky and you can see it really well. You can also see the belt of Orion. So the zodiacal signs would actually go through here. So you can see all kinds of interesting astrological action through that gap in the middle as you would go all the way through. So eventually they turn the lights off on the backside and they light up the Avenue of the Sphinxes. And then there's a discussion about the Avenue of the Sphinxes and who built the pylon. And then we're allowed to start moving forward, heading towards the great courtyard. So we're going to walk our way down the Avenue of Sphinxes with this horde of people into the next section. In the courtyard, you see the shrines to the Theban triad, Amun-Ra, Ansu, and Mut. And they have the inside of it lit up. Then you can see the pillars of the Bastide. That's the way it looks like when you first come in. You can see how dark it is. And then they start lighting up different sections of it. So here's another section of the columns of the Bastides with the statues, the rams in front. Then here is the gap where we will go through to the hypostyle hall, and that's what they use to do a lot of the projections. So here's some examples of some of the projections that they put up. Different pharaohs, and they would go up different times, talk about different sections of the courtyard and what was constructed. Here's a little better shot, a little further back, showing again the projections on one of those columns. Then off to the right is the Temple of Amun, built by Ramses III. And then we have one of the surviving columns from the very last period of construction. And then we're treated to another discussion as we're heading into the hypostyle hall. Now we come to what I consider, and Sherry consider, to be the best part of the whole show, and that is the hypostyle hall. So we go through the gates at the next pylon, and we are in this complete, look how dark it is. I mean, and you can see Venus there in the sky, and then they start lighting it up. So we get the white light. And here's a view of one of the pillars. You see the hieroglyphics really, really well. Then they start changing the lighting. So here it is, pink and purple. Here it is in gold, and in gold, you can start seeing through that little area way down to the end. That is the red chapel. You can see Hatshepsut's obelisk. And then here's a shot of the whole area with the people involved. So it is just wondrous. And they also have lit the other columns on either side, but you don't get a whole lot of time to open fire on those, and ours turned out to be a little blurry, so sorry we don't have that piece. So next we're going to move a little closer, and they'll talk about Hatshepsut's obelisk and the red chapel. The lights are turned off except for the obelisk, and we move a little closer as they start talking about Hatshepsut's obelisk and the red chapel and the chapels that go all the way to the back that you can see lit up by that beam of light. Here we are at the red coloring. Notice Venus up by the tip of the obelisk point, and then they start talking about the different chapels. So it's lit up in white, then it's extended out, and there's the red with the dot in it in one of the farther chapels. And after they finish talking about that chapel at this point, then we're moved forward, and then we begin heading to our seats. So we'll get right up to where the obelisk is, and then we will take a right. If you watch the walkthrough part 1 of the Karnak Temple, you will be aware of where we are. We're on one of the walls where you have the Court de Cachette, and you can see the how easy they are to look at and view with the light on them in the dark. And then here's our good old friend, the gigantic scarab beetle on his pillar, and then here's another one of the obelisks, and then we turn to start walking to our seating. Of course, on the left-hand side is where the cafe was, where we had lunch. And so we continue up, and then we take our seats, and here is the view that we have. You can see a little bit of the Valley of the Kings in the background, but right now they're just waiting for everybody to get into place. Now the rest of the show begins. So they light up the whole backside of the temple. So here you see it's pylon number 8, then you see the entrance pylon, and if it pan a little bit, you can see where we came in, which is now completely dark, and Hatshepsut's obelisk. And then as far as I could pan, then there's the rest of the temples that run from Hatshepsut's obelisk all the way up through the red chapel. And then here we have a change in the lighting. They start projecting on the entry pylon. And again, you can see the Valley of the Kings very well lit up in the back in this particular shot. And then they will do the different pharaohs who put in or added on to the temple. And then here we have some of the lighting coming up from the sacred lake. And after about 15-20 minutes or so, the show ends and it's time to escape. So the exit lights are lit. We walk down to the end of the stretch there, turn left, and go through the gate, or I should say the pylon number 7, into the next courtyard. And then we turn right and head back to the front, head back to where we started. So on our aerial view that we've used many times before, this is where we're coming out, and this is where we're heading. And then I put us back right where we started. There is another group of people that have already started in, so we don't actually get to go back to where we started with the Avenue of the Sphinxes. We go off to the side and go by it, and then head back to where our driver will meet us. Now you say, how much did this cost? I believe it cost us $30. That was for the both of us. That included being picked up at our hotel and taken back to our hotel, as well as the ticket. And then here's the ticket that we got for visiting the Sound and Light Show. I highly recommend it, but I would suggest that you go to the temple first before you go to the Sound and Light Show and get some idea of the immenseness. Because if you're going to base your visit of the temple strictly on doing the Sound and Light Show, you really don't fully understand or enjoy probably what you're going to be seeing. I know one of the problems that a lot of people have is when you come here, you're usually not staying for very long. Frequently, people will fly down from Cairo for a cruise down to the Aswan Dam and take some side trips from there. And so there will be times where they offer trips along with that for Luxor. But some of those are like in the afternoon, you get Karnak, you get Luxor, and you get something else. So you're really spending about an hour and a half maybe at most, or less at some of these places. And then all you have now, we're going over to the Valley of the Kings and buzz by it. I understand a lot of people just seeing it is great, but as a historian and someone who teaches this, I have to have more time at these places. At any rate, we had a good time. I think think you would have a good time with it. I hope you enjoyed our trip through the Temple of Karnak's Sound and Light show. Sherry and I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please come by our YouTube channel at Bob Packett on YouTube. It should be History According to Bob, but it comes up as Bob Packett. That's the easiest way to get to it. And please subscribe and leave some comments. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, give a comment, and if you like history, please come by historyaccordingtobob.com website where I do 6 podcasts a week on different topics in history, and there's all sorts of CDs and other things that you can see. So thank you very much.